Welcome into another episode of Tailgate Talk SEC. I am Will Thomas, and today we are continuing our roster breakdown series with the Mississippi State Bulldogs. Last year, Jeff Lebby led the Bulldogs to the Duke's Mayo Bowl against Wake Forest, which, I don't not to be rude to Mississippi State, but that's not a bad season by any means. And now he enters this year with a brand new roster, a ton of good portal additions, but really on offense, they returned a ton of really high-profile playmakers. So let's just get straight into what Mississippi State is going to look like on the field this fall. Starting off with Kamario Taylor at quarterback, the 6'4", 230-pound sophomore. He was 2 times Freshman of the Week in the SEC last season. He made his first start in the Egg Bowl in 2025, and just on the season last year, he was 43 of 77 passing for over 600 yards and 5 scores. He also ran the ball 82 times for over 450 yards and 8 touchdowns. He is one of the most dynamic athletes, period, now in the SEC. And his ceiling is very, very high. I do compare him a little bit to Taylor Green. He's not quite the same size, a little bit shorter, but he just kind of has those same athletic traits, that same ability to run, but where the arm could probably be developed just a little bit. He had that scary injury against Wake in the Mayo Bowl last year, but he will be recovered, and he'll be Mississippi State's quarterback 1 heading into this season. And then behind him is A.J. Swan, who is 6'2", 220 as a redshirt senior. He's coming in from Appalachian State. He started in 6 of the 7 games he played last year, had just about 1,500 yards and 10 scores last year with the Mountaineers, and he's also been at LSU and Vanderbilt. So he's had 2 other stops in the SEC before going to App State and now coming back to Starkville this season. Moving on to the running backs. Fluff Bothwell headlines that room. He's 5'10", 230 as a junior. Carried the ball over 140 times last year for almost 700 yards and 6 touchdowns. Played in 11 games, got 5 starts, and he will be the workhorse this season for Mississippi State. He could be one of the leading rushers in the conference. Also in that room is a guy like Xavier Gayton, who is 6 foot, 205 pounds as a junior. He's played in 24 career games, has carried the ball 29 times for just over 150 yards and 2 scores. And Colin Wilson is also in that room at 5'9", 190 pounds. He's a redshirt freshman, put in 5 games as a true freshman, got a redshirt last year because his 5th game was that bowl game. Only carried the ball 6 times, but 3 of those carries were touchdowns. So he'll look to expand his role a little bit this year as well. Moving on to the receiver room, they portal in Marquise Johnson, who is 5'11", 190 pounds as a senior, transferring in from Missouri. Played in 12 games, started 7 last year, 28 catches for over 300 yards and 2 scores, and he is spelled by Anthony Evans, the returner for the Bulldogs. He is 5'11", 180 pounds as a senior, started all 13 games last year for the Bulldogs, had almost 70 grabs for over 800 yards and 4 scores. He has lethal speed. And then Aiden Williams is also back. He's their taller downfield guy. He's 6'3", 205 pounds as a senior. Played in all 13 games last year. Had 21 grabs for over 250 yards. And he caught a pass in every single game. So he was very reliable for State last season. Also in that room, Junior Henderson, who is a 6'4", 190-pound freshman. He was a 3-star recruit out of Texas. And he had over 1,000 yards as a senior in high school. Grayson Harris is another redshirt freshman in that room who's 5'11", 175. Played in just 2 games last year. Caught 1 pass. And then Sanfrisco McGee Jr. is 6'2", 200 pounds as a redshirt sophomore. He played in 7 games, had 5 grabs, and a touchdown last season. Moving on to tight ends, they have Riley Williams, who is a 6'5", 250-pound redshirt junior, transferring in from Oregon State. He has 16 grabs for over 200 yards and a score throughout his career. And they also have Sam West in that room, who is 6'4", 250, also a redshirt junior, who played in 13 games, started 2 last year for the Bulldogs, had 5 grabs for over 40 yards and a touchdown. Moving to the offensive line. At tackle, Jakeem Shumpert-Perkins is a 6'5", 330-pound redshirt junior who played in just 2 games last year, didn't start, so he's pretty inexperienced. But across from him is Blake Steen at the other O-tackle spot. He's 6'6", 340 as a redshirt junior. He had a season-ending injury in last year's opener, but he has tons of starting experience from when he was at Virginia before Mississippi State. So I'm not worried about him, with his lack of experience last year because he did have all those reps with the Hoos. Moving inside to offensive guard. They brought in DJ Chester from LSU. He is 6'6", 315 pounds as a redshirt junior. He was freshman All-SEC in 2024, played in 20 games, got 14 starts during his time with the Tigers. And then the other guard spot is LJ Prudhomme, 6'3", 320 pounds as a redshirt freshman. He's coming in from Arkansas, primarily on special teams last year with the Razorbacks, but he is a big 3-star guy. That frame is obviously pretty large, so he should get some good starting reps here with State at guard. And then at center is the familiar face in Cannon Boone. He is 6'4", 315 pounds as a grad student. He started all 13 games for the Bulldogs last year at center, only allowed 5 sacks and committed 6 penalties last year. Flopping over to the defensive side of things. This is where I have a few more questions for State, but we'll get through who they have on that side of the ball right now. They bring in Amari Williams, who is 6'4", 240 pounds as a junior coming in from Florida State. He played both defensive end and tight end with the Noles, but now with State, he will be just a DE. He had 10 tackles, 2 TFLs in the second half last year, and he's going to be working with Will Whitson, who is 6'5", 295 pounds as a grad student. He played in just 2 games last year before his own season-ending injury. But he had 3.5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, a forced fumble in 2024 with Coastal, his last full season of football. They also have Darion Gullett in that room, who is 6'3", 240 as a redshirt junior. He played in 10 games last year, racked up 38 tackles, a tackle and a half for loss, and a sack and a half. And they also have DJ Reed, who is 6'4", 285 as a redshirt junior. He played in all 13 games last year, had 2 TFLs, 2 sacks, and 3 quarterback hurries. Moving inside to the defensive tackles, they portal in Dylan Evans from Texas A&M. He is 6'5", 310 pounds as a redshirt sophomore. He played in 13 total games with the Aggies over his 2 years there. I mean, he was a former blue chip guy, only racked up 8 tackles and a tackle and a half for loss during his limited action, but I believe that he can really develop into a great player here in Starkville. And also Jure Bledsoe, who formerly came in from Texas. He's 6'4", 315 as a redshirt senior. He played in 13 games, started 4 last season, had 28 tackles, 5.5 TFLs, and a sack and a half in his most recent year. They also have Calvin Deakins in that room, who is 6'2", 320. He had 3 TFLs and 2 sacks last year. And then Travion Williams, who is 6'4", 295. He had a sack, 2 hurries, and a tackle and a half for loss last season with the Bulldogs as well. Moving back to the linebacker room now. Zachary Tillman is a 6'2", 235-pound senior who played in 12 games for the Bulldogs last year, got 10 starts. He had 47 tackles, 3 TFLs, a forced fumble, a sack, and a pick. Just an ultra-productive guy there at linebacker for Mississippi State. He is spelled by Jalen Smith, who is 6'2", 230 as a redshirt junior. He played in all 13 games last year, racked up 57 tackles, 1.5 TFLs, a pass breakup, and 3 hurries of his own. They also have Tyler Lockhart in that room, who was a 6'2", 225-pound sophomore. He was freshman All-SEC last year, appeared in all 12 games, had 34 tackles and 2 hurries. And then A.J. Rice is a 6'1", 240-pound redshirt freshman who played in 2 games last year and only put up 1 tackle, but he'll expand on that role this fall. Moving back to corner, I'm very excited about Mississippi State's DBs. They have Kelly Jones, who is a 6'4", 195-pound redshirt junior. He's absolute lockdown. He was third-team All-SEC last year, first team by PFSN, had 34 tackles, 11 pass breakups, and 2 picks, and had a cover grade of 76.8. And he is spelled by Iowa State transfer Quentin Taylor, who is 6 foot 205 pounds as a redshirt sophomore. He played in 12 and got 6 starts last year, racked up 27 tackles, 2 TFLs, and 5 pass breakups. They also portal in 2 more guys for depth. Jameer Grimsley, who comes in from Florida. He is a 6'2", 200-pound redshirt sophomore who is a consensus 4-star out of high school, only saw action in 5 games in Gainesville. And then Caleb Singleton, who is from Syracuse. He is 6'1", 190 as a redshirt freshman. He played in 8 games for the Orange, had 16 tackles, and half a tackle for loss. Back to the safety room, we have Isaac Smith Jr. headlining it, who is 6 foot 220 as a senior. He was second team All-SEC per PFSN last year, played in 10 games, had 9 starts, racked up 64 tackles, a tackle for loss, and a fumble recovery. And he's getting help back there from Marcus Williams, who is a transfer in from Rice. He is 5'11", 200 pounds as a redshirt senior. He started 12 of 13 last season with the Owls, had 67 tackles, 3.5 TFLs, and 5 pass breakups. Also back in that room, you have Jardin Gilbert, who is an LSU transfer. He 6'1", 195 as a grad student, had 145 tackles and 9 pass breakups, 3 picks, a sack and a half during his career with the Tigers. And then Braylon Womack is a true freshman 5-star player, 6'1", 210. He was coming out of Mississippi. He was the 2024 Gatorade Player of the Year in that state, so Womack could easily break into that rotation early on too as maybe their most dynamic defender. And then at kicker, they have Kyle Ferry, who is a 6'1" senior. He played in all 13 games for the Bulldogs last year, was 17 of 20 on field goals, and 44 of 44 kicking extra points. So looking at Mississippi State as a whole this season, it's hard to really be optimistic about more than like 8-4 as like a ceiling, because I do believe that might be possible. You know, we'll break down their schedule later, but their offensive firepower is there. You know, I mean, last year with a team like Arkansas, they only won 2 games, but their offense was one of the best in the country. Their defense was just miserable, but their playmakers on offense, their yards per game, their points per game, it was elite. And looking at Mississippi State this year, they kind of have a similar offensive profile with Kamario Taylor, Fluff Bothwell, and that group of receivers. And State's defense, I'm much higher on than I was on Arkansas's defense last year. So I believe that State kind of has that elite offense on a fine team, but they also have a defense full of individual playmakers that could put together some good games. So I think that Mississippi State, their ceiling is, it's not high, but it's higher than I think the general fan will tell you is for the Bulldogs this year. So watch out for State, man, because they have some really good individual players. Obviously, we'll break down their schedule specifically. We'll get a record prediction out here in the next few weeks once we're done with all these roster breakdowns. But if you have been enjoying all this college football content, this SEC preview stuff, subscribe to me here and follow me on Twitter. I'll be doing it all summer long leading up to the season kicking off. So thank you so much for watching this episode of Tailgate Talk SEC. I've been Will Thomas, and I will see you next time.